Duncan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Okay, so you're a farmer, I heard.
I am. I'm a Virginian farmer.
Can you tell us a bit about your story?
My story? Alright, it all started when we left Great Britain. Because we wanted to start our own place, you know? We wanted to spread out a little bit, you know? Just explore. And so we established the colony of Jamestown, Virginia. And then John Rolfe was the first settler to discover a way to make Jamestown successful. We started planting tobacco and it was great. People love tobacco.
Wasn't it your cash crop?
Yeah, and speaking of cash crops, did you know tobacco was the first cash crop? And yeah, cash crop is basically a crop that is purposely grown for profit. Did you know that?
Yes.
Oh. And you know, people like to buy the crop and people like to trade things too. And that's where the idea of mercantilism comes in. And mercantilism is the idea that trade generates wealth. So countries wanted to export more goods than the number of goods that were imported. And we, the colonies, gave them raw materials such as lumber, iron, food, and I, as a farmer, I was on the agricultural side, obviously, and I had tobacco, cotton, rice. I was making money. And a bunch of the southern colonies actually, you know, focus on the agricultural side. The southern colonies consisted of Maryland, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and Georgia. And I'm from Virginia, of course. Farming in the South was great. It was hot, humid, perfect for farming. Long and hot summers and mild winters. It was just phenomenal.
This time you're still being controlled by the king, right?
Yep, King George III. A great king. So Thomas Paine created this thing called Common Sense, and it was a document that really opened our eyes. We were like, you know what? He is right. We deserve liberty. We deserve freedom, and King George is preventing that. We realized that King George was treating us like crap. It was terrible. Like, we were like slaves to him or
Don't
something.
you have slaves?
The colonists were really upset, and we were like, you know what? Well, not me, because I was in Virginia, and this happened in Boston. The Boston Tea Party. They were like, you know what? We're gonna throw boxes of tea into the ocean. And that's what they did. It was an act of rebellion. And it created quite a stir. It was a mess.
Can you tell us about the saying, no taxation without representation?
Well, colonists, as colonists, we believe that it was very unconstitutional that we didn't have representation, a say in the British Parliament. We were just to do as we were told, and it was not fair. We wanted to have a say. And yeah, that was basically the American Revolution. We wanted to revolt. We wanted to rebel against Great Britain. We wanted them to let us free. So, after, some time of war, the final battle is the Battle of Yorktown. Yeah, George Washington worked alongside Rochambeau, our French allies, and they devised a plan to sabotage the British. The British army, they thought they were going to be slick and escape, but the French troops, they blocked them in Chesapeake Bay. And after 3 weeks of fighting, the British general finally surrendered to General Washington. Wait, what? We won! And yeah, we won, and we were finally free. We were independent. Then 8 years after the war, General Washington becomes the president. The first president. During his presidency, he set some precedents. I really don't know how to say it. Like, precedent or president, whatever, is basically, like a legacy that is set. Like, for example, General Washington, he retired after 2 terms in office, and now no president is allowed to serve more than 2 terms. He also established a cabinet with Secretary Hamilton as the Treasury Secretary and Thomas Jefferson as the Secretary of State. And there was a couple other people, but those are the 2 main important ones. He also established constitutional authority to enforce laws, which is so great because we need some laws. Our world is crazy. Then after President Washington's, presidency, John Adams becomes the president. And let me tell you, he was terrible. No one liked him. He did a terrible job. And then my boy Thomas Jefferson becomes president, and I love him. He's from Virginia too. Represent! Yeah, becomes the president, and he wants states to have more power. He wants to limit the power of the central government. And, him and his supporters were called the Democratic Republicans. And we were against the Federalists, which is, Alexander Hamilton and his crew. They wanted the central democracy to have more power. Okay, I don't understand why. So we can be bossed around like we were in Great Britain? But yeah, as a farmer, I don't want to, be controlled all the time. Like, plant this, plant that, and we gotta sell this, sell that. Like, no! My farm, my rules. And I don't want to be taxed for unnecessary things like the Whiskey Rebellion. So I agreed with Jefferson, because why would I want to give the central government power? Aren't we independent? Then after Jefferson leaves out of office, James Madison comes in, and he was a pretty great president, But somehow he gets, entangled into the War of 1812, and that was a mess. And then the idea of impressment comes in, and that's where Great Britain basically forces American soldiers to serve in the war. My son was forced to fight. I'm surprised he didn't die. I really don't know how he didn't die. Then from 1829 to 1837, Andrew Jackson becomes the president, and he does something that's a little, questionable. He basically forces the Cherokees to leave, their homelands. He's like, leave to the west of the Mississippi River. And, they left. And, that journey of theirs was called the Trail of Tears. Many of them died from exhaustion, starvation, illnesses, and I know I might be a bad person sometimes, but, that was wrong. Well, one good thing is that, I gained some land, for my farm, for my plantations, That wasn't that bad, I still got something from it, so that's good. Then the idea of abolition comes in. People want to free the slaves. Why? They must be out of their minds or something, because why would you want them freed? We are a white nation. And I'm a farmer, so I didn't have that many slaves. I only had like 3. Farmers didn't have that much slaves because sometimes we're more expensive than, land. And land to us is more valuable. But still, slaves were important. So why would we want them freed? Hey, my friends, some of them didn't have the slaves. But that doesn't mean they weren't valuable. I still, could really use them in my farm. They gave me money. You gotta work smarter, not harder.
Can you explain the Fugitive Slave Act?
It was passed in 1850, and it was basically saying that all slaves had to be returned to their owners, even if they were in a free state. So let's say, supposedly, one of my slaves ran away to the north, and if they were caught, they had to be returned to me.
Have one of your slaves ever run away?
Yeah. Look at these leaves. They did a terrible job like this.
Hey, Master.
What do you want, Richard?
Can I go get water?
Water? How much water do you need? It's the second time today.
I'm sorry, I'm really thirsty.
I'm really okay. You got 5 seconds. Go, go,
Yes,
go,
sir.
go.
It's my time to escape. Oh my goodness.
Wait, Richard. Hey, Richard. Hey, Richard. Get down here. Yeah, slaves, they were considered property. They weren't humans to us. Abraham Lincoln becomes the president, and he passes something called the Emancipation Proclamation, basically saying that all slaves were freed. What the heck? It doesn't make sense. You're just losing money because you want to? Anyways, I get mad, and I'm like, you know what? I don't like this union. I'm fighting with this Confederacy 1,000%. Confederacy actually cared about our rights as citizens, and the Union obviously didn't. Otherwise, they wouldn't have freed the slaves. Anyways, we're in the middle of the Civil War. I visit Atlanta because I had to go pick up something, and lucky me! General Sherman comes in and destroys Atlanta. He destroys railroads, buildings, supply lines, and he was trying to intimidate us and, scare the South into surrendering. And then, after some time of, battle after battle, the Confederacy lost. It's kind of embarrassing. Then this Confederate man, he's really mad. He's really mad that we lost and that Abe Lincoln was trying to pass the 13th Amendment. So, Abe Lincoln is chilling with his wife at the Ford Theater. Then this man comes up behind him and he has his little gun. And he shoots him right in the head. And I didn't really like, President Lincoln either, but I wasn't gonna kill him. Some time passes and the 13th Amendment is passed. The 13th Amendment was basically abolishing all slavery and forms of involuntary servitude except for use as punishment for crimes. And I was pretty upset. Not gonna lie, I was furious. Came to realize, I was like, wow, this is all happening for a reason. I'm a part of history, and maybe they deserve to have freedom. I think I had a change of heart. My mind really changed. I was all bamboozled. Everyone else didn't like these freedmen. They thought that they didn't deserve our human rights. And although these freedmen were freed, they certainly weren't treated like it. Jim Crow laws were basically these laws that made segregation legal. So, blacks had, these crappy areas in the town, and the whites had these fancy rich places that they could, surround themselves in. Yeah, basically people still hated these black people, these freedmen, just for being alive, for not being slaves. Then in 1865, one of the most popular white supremacist groups, came into existence. These white supremacist groups were just filled with hatred towards black people. The Ku Klux Klan extended into almost every southern state in America. They would lynch African Americans. They would kill people, do terrible things. Even though I had, a change of heart, I couldn't publicly announce that because I would probably be lynched. I would probably be hated on for even stating anything against their beliefs. I lived alone with my wife. It was just me and her in this ranch with no slaves, no nothing. We didn't have, defense. How was I supposed to protect myself from these groups? I couldn't do anything. I was in Virginia, and, that's part of the South, and these groups were really popular there. It's actually kind of crazy how, some of these groups still exist to this day, and the president allows it.
You are fake news.
Anyways, God bless America, because we need these blessings. We're still living in the 1800s for some reason. Why?
Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. My pleasure.